West Hill United is a progressive spiritual community where how you live is more important than what you believe. West Hill United is a people, a place, an idea. We are a community living out of a progressive faith, striving to make a positive difference in our own lives, the lives of others, and the world. Join us Sundays at 10:30 a.m. or connect with us at any time.
Welcome everyone here in the room at West Hill and those far away at Zoom or close on Zoom. Isn't it nice to be together again this Sunday? I always feel that way. I'm sure you do as well. We are in for a treat today. We get to spend some time with a guest speaker who has much to share about the value of writing and stream of consciousness. Her name is Peggy Guiler. Stay tuned for Peggy's talk very shortly. Let us begin with, as we always do, by acknowledging that West Hill is located in Treaty 20 and in the area of the Williams Treaties of 1923. These are the lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation, previously occupied by the Seneca and Huron-Wendat First Nations. There are approximately 476 million Indigenous peoples in the world who make up 6% of the global population. They play a vital role in biodiversity conservation, managing or holding tenure rights to about a quarter of the Earth's surface, accounting for nearly half the Earth's protected areas and more than half the planet's remaining intact forests, crucial for sustained life on Earth. As treaty people, we support the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, providing a roadmap to the advancement of lasting reconciliation with Indigenous people worldwide, who we vitally need to protect our shared Earth. I now ask Glenn to come forward to provide a special presentation about the Moose Hide project in this May series. Thank you, Glenn.
Thank you, Anne. As you've been noticing in the last few weeks, we've had various people talking about the Moose Hide campaign. The idea is to make us aware of the violence against Indigenous women. I thought I would expand what I was looking at. Yes, I don't want to diminish the concern we have for this, but if you look at Canada as a whole, you realize that there's way too many people out there that feel they are under so much pressure, they have so much piled on them, whether it's a societal, whether it's financial, whether it's relationships. They've been brought to the point where they feel they must strike out at someone, strike out at a member of their family, strike out people they're associated with. They strike out and they end up and sometimes killing people, sometimes just maiming them, simply leaving scars. What brings a person, what brings a human being to the point where they can strike out and do damage to another person? What's happening in our society that allows a person to get to that extreme point? Because if you look at statistics, yes, it's horrific what's happening to Indigenous women. But if you look at the murder rate, and they don't call it murder, they call it premeditated homicide. But you look at the murder rate for Canada, you'll find that not only are the women being abused and murdered, but so are men. In fact, twice as many men as women. Please don't take that as diminishing the effect on women. That's just a fact. That's a fact. And so you got to say, well, how do we prevent that? Well, we know that nations and societies and religions all have as their base tenets is that don't kill, thou shalt not kill. We've heard that many, many times. Love thy neighbor, we've heard that many times. Does it make a difference? No, it does not. It does not make a difference. Even threat of incarceration or eye for eye, in other words, execution, that doesn't do it. So what does? What keeps people from getting to that point where they can do this heinous crime of killing someone else? So then you look farther, and I'm not trained in this, so I have to go look at simply numbers. And I find that there are countries, there are societies that have mitigated this, not prevented. It's really hard to prevent. But there are societies that have mitigated this, and so that their premeditated homicides, murders, are a third of what ours for the same type of populations, same type of society. And what are they doing? What are they doing that will make these people or help these people get past this point where they feel they've got to kill someone? Well, the bottom line is it's generally social programs. Society has cared enough to look after these people no matter what's happening to them. And they prevent, or I shouldn't say prevent, they soften the blow of what life sometimes deals us that we don't want. They're there to find housing for people. They're there to help them when the medical crisis happens to them. They're there when financial crisis happens. They're there to help. And these societies, and I look mostly at the Nordic countries, the Norway, that type of thing, and you look at what their social programs are, and you see that there's a huge number of social programs that they do as a society do it. And anybody that's ever looked completely at this realized, oh, wait a minute, but that costs money. It does, really is. Well, Norway has a taxation rate of 45%, and they have a homicide rate of 0.5 people per 100K. Canada, well, we have a taxation rate of 35% and a homicide rate of 1.7. And our neighbors to the south, very low taxes, 25%. Their homicide rate is 6.7 per 100K. Now, I'm not trying to say there's causation and not correlation, but I think when you go into Google and or into ChatGPT and you say, is there a correlation? They say, no, there's no causation, it's just correlation. I say, you haven't looked at enough of the dots. If the country has the money to do the social programs, and they do the social programs, that eventually leads to people that have less stresses in their life. So, what's your takeaway? Well, I'll tell you what my takeaway is. I never vote for a politician that says they're going to lower taxes.
At the end of the readings, we customarily add the phrase, offered as wisdom for the journey. And we invite you to respond with the phrase, may we walk in its light. This is simply an invitation to participate if you wish to do so. Etty Hillesum, in the collection of her journals and letters called An Interrupted Life, Letters from Winterbork, She was trying to decide what discipline would be best for her each morning. And this is what she wrote. Half an hour of exercises combined with half an hour of meditation can set the tone for the whole day. But it's not that simple. That sort of quiet hour, it has to be learned. A lot of unimportant inner litter and bits and pieces have to be swept out first. Even a small head can be piled high inside with irrelevant distractions. Maybe irrelevant too. True, there may be edifying emotions and thoughts, but the clutter is ever present. So let this be the aim of the meditation, to turn one's innermost being into a vast, empty plain with none of that treacherous undergrowth to impede the view, so that something of God can enter you and something of love also. Not the kind of love deluxe that you revel in deliciously for half an hour, taking pride in how sublime you can feel, but the love you can apply to small, everyday things. I might, of course, read the Bible each morning, but I don't think I'm ready for that. I still worry about the real meaning of the book rather than lose myself in it. I think I'll read a little bit of the Philosopher's Garden each morning instead. I might, of course, confine myself to writing a few words on these blue-lined pages, to the patient examination of just one single thought, even if none of my thoughts is very important. In the past, ambition can be marvelous, perfect. I simply could not allow myself to write down any old thing, even though I was sometimes bursting with the longing to do just that. August 4th, 4:30 p.m. Let me be full of pathos then. Write down everything inside me, and when I have written all the unconsciousness and exaggeration out of my system, perhaps I will then get down to myself. No, I can't work it out, try as I may. This writing is sort of a rough draft. I try things out, discard this and that, and hope all the pieces will fit together in the end. But I mustn't run away from myself or from difficult problems, and I don't really. What I do run away from is the difficulty of writing it all down. It all comes out so clumsily. But then you don't put things down on paper to produce masterpieces, but to gain some clarity. I am still ashamed of myself, afraid to let myself go, to let things pour out of me. I am dreadfully inhibited because I have not yet learned to accept myself as I am. Offered as wisdom for the journey. May we walk in its light. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker. Peggy Guiler grew up in Port Dover on the lakefront. Lucky girl. With the encouragement of some wonderful teachers, her passion for words took her to Ottawa, where she studied journalism before finding work at a local paper. She started a family before moving back to Port Dover to work at home in the community and alongside her husband. Their partnership would transition to single parenthood, so Peggy picked up extra work writing freelance for 3 newspapers. The news industry took a heavy hit in the 90s, so Peggy once again found a new passion, finding a niche in mental health peer support. There, she developed training programs for a local group and expanded that to the provincial level. Peggy's experience, education, and ease with both listening and public speaking served her well as a trainer, facilitator, and speaker for over 20 years. Approaching retirement, she pursued coaching, spiritual direction, and community ministry. Her business, River of Hope Enterprises, offers a variety of life services. She officiates marriage ceremonies, offers spiritual guidance, as well as journaling training. To support her passions for the past 14 years, she has joyfully driven a school bus and more recently taken on work as a chaplain in a long-term care facility. Wow, what a wonderful life's journey. You may already have met Peggy as she's been part of our West Hill community this year. We are delighted to welcome her to round out our Mix It Up May series with her message about memos and memories. Sorry, memoirs. Memories are probably in there too. Please welcome our friend, Peggy Guiler.
Hi, can you all hear me? I can't see you anymore, so can you see the screen? Can you hear me? Yes? Okay.
We can't
Because
see your screen. You haven't shared your screen.
I haven't shared my screen? Oh no, I thought I did.
So in Zoom, the share icon.
How did this? Okay.
There we go.
Are we good now?
Yep.
Now I can see you too. Okay. Just show you this briefly. This is Eddie Hillison, and it was her that we read this morning. I encourage you to read her book. It's an amazing story. It's a collection that her friends put together of her journals and her letters after she went to Auschwitz. So I won't tell you the end of the story because it's just too beautiful and it'll make me cry. So memoirs and memos and memoirs. That's what we're here about. And first of all, I want to thank you so much for inviting me today and for welcoming me into your fellowship. I've quite enjoyed being with you. I found you by accident, if you believe in accidents, and I'm so glad that I did find you. My personal spiritual journey has been challenging, life-changing. That story's for another time, but today let's talk about journaling. During COVID, in response to some inquiries from folks who knew that I journal all the time, I wrote an e-book about journaling. And that was a jump off for creating a book and a course on the subject. Just the adventure of the course and learning about self-publishing was wonderful. But since then, I've offered the course in various iterations to many people. Some never carried on with the journaling practice beyond the course, but they may pick it up again. Many are still journaling. Some who already journal have allowed themselves to experiment with changing it up. This is quick course on me. Yeah, you're invited. So I have courses that you're welcome to take. You can read my blog each Tuesday. I write something about some aspect of journaling. And on Fridays in my blog, you never know what might show up. But whatever spills out of me working toward a deadline and practicing my writing skills is what I'm trying to accomplish. I think I have 40 followers. It's all right. Oops, got ahead of myself. There, nope, now I'm behind. Oh, my clicking finger is just too quick today. There have been many challenges, even tragedies in my life. We each have a story to tell of our pain and victories. For each of us, our story is the most important story on the planet. And I love that comment from Martin that journals, when we keep a journal, it's a chapter, our chapter of the human story. I'm going to use that, Martin. Thanks. Well, my personal challenges have been many. I have come through them with my hope intact and my outlook positive. My ever-evolving faith and the support of wonderful friends have been my compass. But my anchor and constant friend has been my journal. It is where I record life events. It's where I sort out things and talk them through. It's where creative ideas are formed and given breath. It is my prayer and my meditation. The journal for me is not just notes on the day, but rather a sacred place for the healing of my heart and the growth of my soul. Everyone records things differently in their diary or journal. What and how is entirely up to you. David Thoreau, American essayist, naturalist, and philosopher, said, "Some record only what happened to them, but others how they have happened to the universe." Artist Nora Reza said, "Writing isn't the same thing as therapy, but it is healing in and of itself. It is a process where you begin to take your feelings and arrange them as if you were making a quilt." Aboriginal artist Kay Walkingstick said, "Journal what you love, what you hate, what is in your head, what's important. Journaling organizes your thoughts, allows you to see things in a concrete way that otherwise you might not see." Maya Angelou said, "There is no greater pain than bearing an untold story inside you." And my favorite is from William Wordsworth, who said, "Fill the paper with the breathing of your." I have, oops, just a minute, going other side of the page. So no two journals are alike. Here are pages from some famous ones. I wonder if you can guess. Leonardo da Vinci. And then Frank. Arthur Conan Doyle. I have many reasons for wanting to journal. My grandfather kept a journal every day of his adult life. I have copies from 1952 through 1983. The journal shown on this slide is Grandpa's. The entry on January 7th, 1983 was his last. He died 8 days later. I also had teachers who encouraged me to keep a journal. In journalism training, it became a bit of a lifestyle. Since then, I've filled many journals. This is what 38 years of journals looks like. I have another bookshelf full since I took this picture 6 years ago. What should journals look like? The content, formats, and look of journals is as endless and as unique as each person who creates one. Your journal can be a collection of paper napkins stored in a shoebox, or an expensive leather-bound book with handmade silk paper. There are journals with lines and dots, plain pages with artwork, or pre-made journals with prompts and ideas. Some exploration online or in a bookstore will give you many options. In the course, we examine these options. We also take a deep dive into the security of the journal, which is a big issue for many people. It was an issue for me as well, with a nosy roommate at one point and later an abusive spouse, but I got past that. When my kids were teenagers, I put a rather cryptic note in the front of my journal every time I started a new one. It said, "If you read something I've written about you that you don't like, consider changing your behavior." I have to remember to click there. The pages of a journal can take many different forms. For you, it might need to be a gratitude journal, a dream journal, a trip journal, a cottage journal, something that everyone can write in. One for each of your children, though I have to warn you, the empty pages of the baby book of your second child may cause grief when they realize you didn't keep it up. A Facebook page or an email account for each child may be a better option. Your therapist may want you to keep a journal to track moods and feelings and responses. You may want a diary like Grandpa to record weather and events. Whatever your journal needs to be for you is what you need to make it. It may evolve from one format to another and then back again. The only judge in your journal is you, and you need to be kind to yourself. You may have several different purposes or even several different journals. One woman who took the course started 3 journals, one for dreams, one for gratitude, and the other for keeping track of days and ideas. Another person switched from lined pages to a sketchbook so she could easily include some of her art. My own journal is a mishmash. I started a separate dream journal at one point, but prefer to keep everything together. Now the dreams are in blue ink, the happenings of the day in black, and the meditations and spiritual revelations are in red. I also tried a bullet journal, but that didn't last long. It is now my birthday book. The pen the pen you use may seem trivial, but it's not. I switched to fountain pens 2 years ago and love it. Whatever pen you use needs to feel comfortable in your hand and write easily. Even the size and flexibility of a journal needs to suit you. I usually recommend one that opens and stays open easily, so you don't have to fight to write. I also prefer a journal with a hard back, so I can write on my lap while I sit on the porch or in the car. There. My friend Heather, who designed the cover of my book, keeps an art journal. Basically, she takes the guts out of an old bound book and puts art paper in it. If I can get this to work, I'll show you. There. So she does that to it. She says often she writes on the plain pages and then covers her words with art. And it ends up looking like that. That's her security system and her way to cover pain with beauty. One of the great ways to start the journaling habit or to get back at it is with prompts. There are thousands of ideas on my Pinterest page. The examine is one of my favorite prompts, though, and is very versatile. I learned about it when I was taking spiritual direction training. The book shown here is a simple explanation given with the story of children in wartime England who went to bed holding their bread for the next day so they could sleep without worry. The examine is like holding bread, so that you can look forward to tomorrow without fear and with a rested heart. This is an ancient practice which has grown out of the Ignatian tradition. They say it is like praying backwards through the day. At the end of the day, with an attitude of gratitude, you look at both the good and the bad. Then you consider tomorrow and how you might export the lessons of today to tomorrow's journey. This is a great practice for families at the dinner table, at bedtime, or for individuals in a journal. There is really only one rule in journaling: just write. Thank you for your attention.
Become a sustaining champion of West Hill United's work by committing to an automatic monthly donation. Learn more or donate now through Canada Helps.